Hello, hello. We are live. Well, I'm saying we, but it's only me here. Um, I'm going to have we're going to have a conversation about something. I guess quite deep. This is a deep topic. It's a philosophical topic. How to weaken a nation. Um, and I want to talk about that on three levels. How to weaken a nation. First of all, um, we will look at the whole nation, the politics and so on, international connections. Then we will look at the social structures within the nation, and then we'll look at the individual. And this is a live stream, so I will take some short breaks to say hello to the people joining. Angela, KP Heathen, Daniel, Austin, good, and Orkaderos. Hello, everyone. Good to see you here. Niflung is here. On a general level, I'm sure you all understand why I want to talk about this, because we are seeing this in real life as we speak. I believe that this is the end, or we're seeing we are witnessing the end of the dominance of the West, if you will, and it should be very easy to see that other parts of the world are taking over as the dominant forces on this planet. China, the coalitions between China, Russia, China, Iran, and India, sort of that part of the world, while the West being, with the West, I mean Europe, Western Europe, and the USA and Canada. We're not really as dominant as we used to be. Okay. So, Tore, hi there. Jamie, good to see you. So let's look at the nation as an entity within the world. So how do we weaken a nation on that level? Well, I believe you weaken a nation on that level by making it dependent on other nations. Now, there is nothing wrong in having coalitions working with other nations. In fact, I think that a, a, a nation that is isolated, or that chooses to isolate itself from other nations, will not. That in itself is a way to weaken a nation. You may want to look at North Korea. That's a good example of a nation that isolated itself for a long time, and now, of course, it has opened up towards Russia and so on. So we need to work with other nations, but if you become the weaker part in such a coalition, you very quickly become dependent on the other nation. A good example here is actually Norway, where I live. A way to weaken Norway is to make Norway dependent on the EU. Now, of course, the EU is not a nation. Europe is not a country, but Norway not being a member of the EU, thank the gods for that. But having politicians here who really, really want Norway to be part of the EU, it makes us dependent on the EU, and it weakens Norway. Now, I'm not going to get into details on that, but um, I would say another example would be Taiwan. Taiwan. I think anyone who knows a little bit of history will not see Taiwan as part of China. Um, but China sees Taiwan as part of China, of course. But it's a very small country, and they are dependent on. No, they're not dependent on China, but they are under the heel of China, sort of, if you know what I mean. Um, first name, last name. Thank you so much for that awesome donation. Yeah, well, thank you for those kind words from Flekkefjord in Norway. So that's one thing, I'll try to keep it short here because we want a discussion on this. So a country that fails to keep its independence will be weakened. Also, a country that headlessly, is that the word? Headless, without thoughts, without thinking, goes into armed conflicts will be weakened, right? So, so that's one way to look at it. But I guess also there are many implications here when it comes to financial and monetary policies and so on. And all of these decisions can weaken a country, obviously. A country can also be weakened, of course, if you have tax rules for the citizens, but other tax rules for investors from abroad. That's the situation in Norway, right? So let's move down a level, and the cultural and social structures within the country. And by the way, I'm not someone who knows it all. I'm just sharing my thoughts here. So please share your thoughts in the chat. If we look at the West, the family structure seems to have been a formula for success. So by that I mean that a social structure where you have the father and the mother and the children. That's an entity within the culture, right? That seems to be a formula for success, for high production, and for progress, right? And I think we all know that the family has been, well, some would say the family has been under attack since the 70s, at least since the 70s. And now, if you look at the number of single households, it's skyrocketed. And if you look at the number of children who grow up in single parent households, that has also skyrocketed. And that has implications for the children, of course. Now, we have a loneliness epidemic, which seems to act as fuel on the fire when it comes to suicides and depression and all of that. And for the children, what we know is that, I'm sure you all know this, that statistically, children who grow up in boys who grow up without their father being present have a much higher likelihood of being, what's the word, incarcerated, ending up in prison, and getting into things like drugs and crime. And women too, girls who grow up without a father, they seem to have more problems. I can't present the statistics here off the top of my head, but yeah. So when you break down the family structure, you weaken a nation, and that's a social structure. Now, um, the Western model, if you will, should be criticized. It's not perfect, and it has led to historically atrocities and a lot of bad stuff, right? And you could say that the family structure and high production, what is that? It's just being a slave to the system. You go to work and you work until you almost, you're very old, and you maybe get a little bit of pension, and then you die. So it's not like I'm saying that that's great, but it is a fact that it has made the West very successful and uh, dominant. It has made the Western world, like Europe and the USA and Canada, it made us very successful compared to other cultures, right? And that boils down to the social structures. Now, there was something I should add to that. Now I forgot. Yeah, so if you want to weaken a nation, uh, you can just do things that will break up the families. Oh, yeah, this is the thing I wanted to add. It's often called the Judeo Christian model or culture. That is wrong. It's actually not correct to say that, because it has very little to do with Judaism. It has very little to do with Christianity. It should be called actually the Germanic model, if you will, because this, if you look at the culture, it goes back to past Christianity. It's a typically, and it's a with this family structures and this focus on production and being a productive member of society, working, the value of work, and all of that. It's a typical northern. It comes from Northern Europe. It comes from the Germanic peoples, and we are not supposed to say that, but that's the fact. That's where it comes from. So we should call it Germanic, the Germanic model, if you will, if we really need to give it a name. Um, so, so there is the family. There are other aspects as well to this, but I would say that the family is the most important social structure in our culture. So let's go down. Let's go down another level to the individual. So the individual is, of course, maybe the most important entity in the culture, in the nation, right? Because we're all individuals. So a strong nation needs strong individuals. A strong nation needs healthy, happy individuals. And for us humans to be healthy and happy, we know that there are a few things that we need to have. We are not that complicated, actually. Um, so we need clean water. We need healthy food. We need enough sleep. And research has shown that we need to stay outside under the sun every day for quite some time to be healthy. It has to do with the mitochondria, actually, that gets activated. Now, again, I'm not a doctor, so, but it gets activated by the ultra red radiation from the sun. So we are now living in a culture where individuals, many individuals, do not get that. They don't get those things. Well, maybe clean water to some extent, although we do have microplastics in the water now. So filter your water. Instead, we have, and this is actually I do believe that far more important than the breaking up of the family. Now, of course, this is all connected, but far more important than that is the weakening of the individual, because it kind of starts with the individual. So we have, if you look at what people eat in the Western world, it's not good. It's lots of ultra processed foods, and actually most people do not get enough protein, and that's the part they don't want to tell you. But if you live on a diet based on grains, most people live on a diet based on grains. That's just the reality. That's not going to give you enough protein. Most people eat enough carbs. They eat so much carbs that you would think that they were ultra, what to call it, ultra runners, those who run for if they eat enough carbs to run a marathon every day. And also the food that people eat, a lot of it is not food. I could go on and on about this. I have talked about it before, but it's if you look at the contents, it's not good. In addition, the individuals in the Western world are statistically, a large portion of people are medicated, and this is a difficult one, actually, because I'm not saying that if you have an illness or something that needs treatment, you should not take medication, but people medicate themselves to treat the symptoms of the lifestyle. And not only do they do that, but also we have an epidemic of like they call it recreational drugs, and it's especially the liberal view on this. If you have been following my channel here for a while, you know that I'm not a liberal, I'm not a libertarian. I have no tolerance for things like that. I will kick people out of the chat if they start claiming that taking narcotics is a good thing. They wouldn't use those words, but I guess you all know what I'm talking about here. All of those things weaken individuals. It weakens individuals. Now, it weakens individuals on a hormonal level. It weakens individuals on a spiritual level. And it weakens individuals on a social level, meaning that they will not be able, after a while, to interact with people without also having a need to take those drugs. And when you have that, you weaken the whole nation. And when we in Norway, we're not very liberal in Norway. We look at the USA, it's like a dumpster fire there. That's what it looks like. And it has a lot to do with the liberal view on drugs. and the extremely unhealthy food. So it's not good at all. So when you weaken the individual, you weaken the nation. And I think that's the worst problem at this point. Another thing that we seem to observe now is people just going along with it. You know what I mean? People just they've kind of checked out. They've given up. So they don't, like single people, they don't try to find someone anymore. Yeah, I know that the US is not a dumpster fire. That's an overgeneralization. I know that. I realize that. But that's what it looks like compared to Scandinavia. The USA looks really, really dystopian now. Okay. Yeah, lost my train of thought there. But it's hold on. I will look at the chat, but I need to get through this. I never use a script, so I'll try to remember what I was saying here. Yeah, so single people, it's not natural for human beings to live alone. You might think that that's natural for you, but it's not. We're just animals. And we're just animals, and that's we're pack animals, basically. I'm not saying that you can't be happy if you live alone. You can, but you're subsidizing, or you're mending your needs for having that tribe, having that close family. You're patching up. You're trying to find the right word here. You're trying to meet that need all of the time. You're doing that through social media. You're doing it through contact on social media. It's a crutch. It's a band-aid of your social need if you're alone. So now I'm hearing that young men, they don't approach women. And I'm like, why are you not doing that? You should do that. If I was a young man, I would certainly do that. You know? And AI, yeah, you have also these AI boyfriends, AI girlfriends, and I saw some statistics on that. It's a lot of young people now. They would rather interact with an AI boyfriend or AI girlfriend than real people. So you have that, and you have a lot of people saying that they have social anxiety. They have all sorts of they're introverts. That's the fashionable thing to say now. Some people are introverts. I am introvert, but it doesn't make you introvert. I mean, when you're just lazy, you're just sitting at home looking at that smartphone. That's not the same. That's just being lazy, right? So what that leads to is the worst crisis. The worst and most important crisis we are facing in the West. Not only in the West, by the way. They have the same problem in India, China, and many other places. But it's in Europe and also the USA now. It's really, really bad. So can you guess what's the worst problem that we are facing? It's not the environment. It's not. It's and politicians, they do not want to talk about this. We're not having enough children. So you can actually project the downfall of the West quite easily using simple mathematics. It's very easy to do. So in a few decades, the West, the culture that we call the West, the European cultures, North America, uh, we will be such a small minority that we will be nothing but a memory, basically, simply because of the birth rate. And the birth rate is a symptom of essentially two things. The most important thing is how people have been weakened on an individual level. They feel weak. They are lots of men, young men, they have a very low sperm count. I mean, they have a low testosterone level, which means that they will have a much lower sex drive. Sorry to be that blunt, but that's you need those things to make babies, okay? um, and this is a huge problem. It's a huge problem. If you're a young man, you're supposed to be out there trying to find a wife, or well, in Norway, like we don't really marry that often, but a lifelong partner. Listen, if you're a young man, you should be out there trying to find a good woman. And if you're not doing that, sorry, but what are you doing? So, yeah, it's very easy. So it's the low birth rate is the biggest problem we are facing. Um, Now, of course, there are people out there, typically on the far extreme fucking left, those crazy people. They think it's a good thing. Yeah, because the white man is evil, and if we could just flood Europe and North America with people from other parts of the world, that would be great. And that's what we are seeing now in Europe. Um, yeah, okay. I don't think it will be that great, but yeah, I'm getting old, so I would say I don't care, but I do because I have children. Um, so this is just a quick, off the top of my head, outline of how to weaken a nation. Uh, it's a perfect storm right now. Um, yeah, I happen to be one of those extreme people who do not support abortion, um, except when it's like a medical condition, or like what they call it, some the pill you can take the day after didn't if you forgot about contraception. I actually do not support free abortion. I don't. um, I'm not saying that if a woman was raped and she shouldn't be able to have an abortion. Of course, she should be able to have an abortion in those cases. But so I wouldn't say I'm pro life, because because that comes with, I believe, some very very extreme, very extreme um, annotations. Is that the right word? Um, politics. Yeah, well, so yeah, um, yeah. Actually, on that note, I will tell you something. We are at most Scandinavians. They haven't woken up yet. So I think I'm talking to mostly people in North America, where there is a yeah. So I would say it anyway. But there was a politician, a youth politician, a young politician. Thunder Norse is Norwegian. Good to have you here. Um, she's in a Christian party. That doesn't matter. I'm not a Christian, but she said that she was asked what she thought should be done or not done concerning abortion if a woman is raped. And she said, I wouldn't, I, I can't remember the wording exactly, but she was caught a little bit off guard. And the way I understand what she said is that she was speaking from herself, what she thought would be correct for her. And she said she would, no abortion. She said no abortion, even after rape. That's what she said. And the debate that followed here in Norway was extremely inflammatory. And it's like, waving a red cloth in front of a bull. People just reacted because they have been conditioned to react. Now, and what people were saying was actually they implied that if a woman is raped, which is I shouldn't have to say this, a horrible, horrible thing. And by the way, we need to punish rapists much harder. But anyway, if that should happen to a woman, here's the thing people don't get. You can't force her to have an abortion. Now, I think that if she wants to have an abortion, she should absolutely have an abortion. Of course, that should be her right. But if she doesn't want to, now I don't think that would happen very often, but there are cases when the woman do not want to have an abortion. Actually, it happens, right? So even though she should not be forced to carry that child to birth, she should also not be forced to have an abortion. But in effect, that's what these people who attacked this politician were saying. And that's a serious, serious matter. And I couldn't see anyone pointing that out here because people just reacted with their feelings. So, okay, that was a little bit of a side note there, but China had a forced abortion policy for years. They still do it with the Uyghurs because China is a fucking brutal dystopian nightmare. Even though they try to sell themselves as this high-tech, wonderful place, but it's not. So, yeah, I shouldn't have mentioned the abortion thing. That's not really what this live stream is about, so I will not comment on that. Yeah. Yes, first name, last name. Dude, that's me. Am I the dude? The politicians are laughing at low birth rate. I distinctly remember Erna finding humor in it. Erna, yeah, she was the prime minister here. Now she's just eating cake because her husband was caught doing inside trading, and Arna said, "I didn't know anything about that." Yeah, well, I see these posts on social media where people are saying, "What's the problem with low birth rates?" and also these women saying, "Oh, I'm in my 30s and 40s and I'm single and it's the best thing ever." And they are mocking those people who are saying that, what happens when you get old and so on. Will you not be lonely when you get old? They are mocking them. And we don't need men and all of that. Yeah, who's going to do your plumbing? Right? um, who's going to make sure that you can live such a comfortable life? Usually, men do that for you. um, but anyway, anyway, these women, they are not realizing the effect of us not having enough children. So when a nation doesn't produce enough children, what happens is that you're not having enough people who can work and pay taxes. And when not enough people are paying taxes, there will not be enough money to support old people. So old people will have to work. That's what we are seeing now. I saw one example, that was in the USA. Some old guy, he was climbing up the stairs to deliver food to some girl who had ordered some Chinese takeaway or delivered to her apartment. It shouldn't be like that. It really should not be like that. But that's the future. So, to those women and men who think that we don't need anyone, I'm happy being single, I'm childless, that's great. Yeah, well, I hope you also want to work into your 80s, basically until you die. I hope that you're prepared to do that, because your life will not be a life where you are sitting in your sofa in your apartment with your friends, laughing and drinking wine. That will not be your life. Your life will be a life where you work until you die. Why am I up so early? Because I wake up early, can't sleep. Red Wolf Moon says, I'm a young man, I have a great woman, and we live mostly off grid together already. That's great. That's good to hear. Women having children in their 40s. That of course comes with some risk of things like Down syndrome and so on. Having said that, even though I would say I would advise against it, also because you will be old when your child grows up, right? If you're 45 and you have a child, you will be 65 when that child is 20. Yeah. But it's actually not, historically, not so uncommon. Most people don't realize this, but it was quite common back in the days for women to have children until they could not have children anymore. So yeah. A girl had a child at 10. Yeah, well, that's obviously criminal. That's, yeah, very sad. Yeah, of course. Um, yeah, let's talk about work and career. I think it's a lie for men and for women. I think that is actually a weakness with this Germanic model. And I want to call it Germanic instead of Judeo-Christian, where you have a family and you work. The work is emphasis on work. That's the meaning of life work, Even though it has made us extremely successful as a culture and productive, what we're seeing now is that we are living in not a production culture, but a production economy, but a service economy. And that same model doesn't really apply to the same extent when it comes to work. Also, the tax rate is now so high that you're basically working, most people are working for the state at least half the year, if you take VAT into the equation there. What that means is that more than half of your income is taxed. It goes straight out back to the state. So I think that our emphasis on work and career is, I think our emphasis on work is potentially damaging, and I think that having a career is a lie for most people, at least. You quickly realize when you get laid off that you never had a career and your employer don't care about you. They only care about short-term gains. A good example, short-term gains and a mismanagement of a huge corporation is YouTube. YouTube is not a corporation; it's part of Alphabet, but it's such a typical case of mismanagement based on perceived short-term gains. We're seeing it all over the place. Carola, good to see you. I used to work for a sort of big company. I had to quit because I lost myself. Now I have a less stressful job, and my dream job is my side hustle. Yeah, that's great. First name, last name says, I completely agree. I've always seen it this way, ironically, ever since I was a child. You can have a craft. Now, my craft, I don't have a career, but I have a craft, and that's writing, because I'm a novelist. So that's my craft, and I take pride in my craft. If you're a cobbler or a carpenter, you have a craft. But I don't think that people have careers. Not in this, maybe before, but not now. That's an illusion. Depends on how you define it, I guess. But I don't believe in that concept of having a career. You can have happiness in your work. You can find fulfillment in your work. Lots of people do that, but lots of people don't. And I think that we have the concept of, excuse my language, bullshit jobs. A lot of jobs are bullshit jobs now. People are just moving money, moving paper and moving money, moving artificial money. That's what they do. And they, yeah, I think people will wake up when you have the AI everywhere and people are laid off. So that's interesting. We're going to have to talk about that a little bit, because this is, I just thought now that that's actually part of this. AI is weakening nations. It's making people stupid. It's making people lazy, and that's not what we need. Actually, we need the opposite of that. I will say that we will probably see that AI bubble burst within, some say next year, some say within a couple of years. Nobody knows. I wish I knew, because I would then wait until the day before. I would then sell my stocks, my shares, get out of the stock market, wait until it's right at the bottom, then buy. you know. But since I don't have a crystal ball, I can't do that. Yeah, 2 to 3 years, says Kat, guessing. Yeah. Batmerk says 5 to 10 years. Yeah, could be 5 to 10 years. Nobody knows. But my point here is that when that bubble bursts, which I think it will, Thunder North 1 month, when it bursts, we will see massive layoffs and so on. Massive amount of people being laid off, right? But it could actually be a good thing, because here's what I'm thinking. If we get that AI bubble soon, then people will wake up and they will understand that, first of all, it was not making production more effective. They will say it does, but I don't think so. And that it was a castle built on sand, as they say. And that's a good thing, because then we can start building and we can start using AI where it should be used. And I don't think AI has a place in. I think AI has a place, some like in research, finding a cure for cancer, things like that. But yeah. But if it takes a long time, you will see that AI will weaken nations. If it takes 10 years before that bubble bursts, before that, we will see massive unemployment. The unemployment rate will go up a lot, and people will suffer because of that. You want to hope not, because everything will come down with it. Yeah, I'm very cynical, you see, because I don't care if this culture and civilization, if that part of it burns to the ground. I don't care. I would want to see that, actually. And I want to see us find our roots again. And another thing is that, and this might sound very selfish, but as a novelist, I've been a novelist all my professional life, and I've always been treated like I don't deserve to make money. Right? So novelists are always on the bottom when it comes to rights, And the rights that someone who's employed take for granted, we have none of those. None of those. And if you try to complain about that, or if you try to, well, it's not even complaining, if you try to present the facts about that, you will find that there is no sympathy. So I guess I've learned to have no sympathy. You get what I'm saying? People think that they're so safe in their jobs. You're not. Yeah, and it's exactly, I'm not unique in that sense. Long haul trucker, cave clown, same like how I feel. Yeah, because I guess you don't get to have those rights. It's the same in a way. So, sorry, but there will be very little empathy here when it comes to those things. Uh, yeah. And I'm also cynical enough to go in and invest when I feel that the market is right at the bottom. Um, yeah. And by the way, I can't really. Should I go into how to strengthen a nation? My opinions on that. Let me know in the chat if you want me to talk about that. I will say though that a way to weaken a nation is to not take care of the culture, the old culture, the national culture. Okay, we should get into that. Okay, yeah. So let's start at again on top level, the nation as an entity, right? You need a certain level of independence. I believe a nation should be self-sustained with food if it's possible. It's not always possible. In Norway, it's difficult, but it can be done. It should be self-sustained when it comes to defense, meaning that it needs to navigate in an intelligent way, because I'm not saying that every single nation should have enough weapons and soldiers to defend itself against any superpower. That's impossible. But again, Norway as an example, it's extremely foolish to have this aggressive attitude towards Russia. We shouldn't bend the knee to Russia, but we shouldn't be aggressive towards Russia like we are now. It's extremely foolish. Okay, so I think that independence creates a nation that has integrity and independence, will manage in a much better way to create good deals and good alliances with other nations. Okay, so when it comes to the culture and strengthening the families, and that has a lot to do with money. I believe that a good use of taxpayers' money is to support mothers, or I should not mothers, mothers too, but families. But you can't really separate between single mothers and families. If you have a child, you should be supported financially to have one parent, stay at home with the child for 2 years. We know that that creates a much healthier, safer, more well-adjusted child. It just does. It's like investing in making education available to everyone and building roads. It's such a good investment. We need to support the families. We need to support people having children. It needs to be finance should not be a hindrance to having children. Also, it should not be an incentive to have children. By that I mean that women have children just to get the money and they kick out the father. That's what we have now. And that's a horrible thing. Yeah, so that's protecting the family unit. It should be, we can't do anything about people moving apart, people breaking up, but your personal economy should not be a hindrance. That should not be a source of conflict. So we need to secure that. Then you strengthen the families. The children are the future. Nobody can disagree with that. So we need to make the nations more friendly towards having children. We need to I'm always like, I wave to the kindergarten kids when they walk past my house. Sometimes, if they walk past, I wave and so because it's like, it's, first of all, childhood is such a magical time of your life. And we should try to protect that, and we should so children are very, very important. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot of things here. When it comes to the individual level, I think that having a liberal or libertarian society is just so incredibly foolish. Now, I'm in full support of freedom, but we can't just say that just do whatever you like, because there are so many idiots out there. That's one thing. And there are so many people in pain out there, in mental pain, physical pain as well. But they will do whatever they can to not be in pain. So they will make foolish choices. I would say that if we could turn back the clock, move back in time, we should even make alcohol illegal. Now, I'm saying that as someone who used to collect Scottish single malt whiskies. But we need to really realize that any substance that intoxicates people and changes their mood and behavior is not good. Any addictive substance is not good. I know you won't like this one, but I would even ban caffeine, because it's not healthy. It really is not healthy. So we need to have some rules in place I do not believe in individual freedom when it comes to these things that people really can't control. Addictive substances. It's weakening people. It needs to be illegal. Yeah, you're not taking my coffee away from me. I get it. I'm not saying that we can ban coffee, but it's if we could go back to when was coffee introduced? Was it 1500s? No. Yeah, anyway, I can't, not saying we can do that. But if we could, and coffee is a minor problem. It's a very small problem. Can't even be compared to the other things I'm talking about here. So these things, we can't really do that. But making our culture and society more liberal towards these substances is extremely foolish. Extremely foolish. Tobacco, I would say yes, should be banned, but well, I think that will be very difficult. Yeah, but anyway, we need to make society so that set up society in such a way that that's an interesting comment. I will reply to that. Set up society in such a way that it's easy for people to live a healthy and happy life, a life free of being dependent on things, right? We also need to work less. Yeah, that should come as a surprise, maybe coming from me, but I believe that people working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, it's insane, and it's not needed, and it's not productive. Now, the 4-day work week has been introduced in several places now, and the research on that and the results on that are very, very clear. People are not less productive if they work a 4-day work week. So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's have people have more time with their families and their children. Right? We also need to have people spending more time outside in nature. We could put in place economic incentives for you to move to places outside of the city. We already have that in the sense that properties are cheaper there. But if your work is in the city, you have to live in the city. But I mean, during COVID, people worked online. They worked from home. Can we go back to that more if you want to? Maybe that's how we could work and so on. We can put in place all these arrangements to facilitate a healthier life. And when I speak about healthier life, one thing we should do, which should be very, very easy to do, is to stop again, to make all of that crap they are selling in the stores, calling it food, make it illegal. Make it illegal. I know in the USA it's really horrible because so many additives there are. There are so many additives there that are not even legal in Europe. But we should put in place some proper rules so that food that is not good for you is actually made illegal. You can't sell it. So one example is these synthetic sweeteners. They're not good for you, so it should not be legal. Lingo says, I disagree. Drugs and alcohol is European man's only coping mechanism in the modern age. No, it's not. None of those things should be used as a coping mechanism. Instead, you should try to be strong. You should try to be have integrity, and life is not always so easy. You should try to apply some discipline. So let's see. Yeah, taxes should also be used. VAT, that's taxes on what you buy, should also be used. Not only VAT, but additional taxes should be used to make unhealthy food expensive and make healthy food cheap. So what's healthy food? Healthy food is meat, fish, organic vegetables, basically. That should be cheap, while these ultra processed things, they're not even food, made out of a mixture of soy and chemicals, first of all, they shouldn't be allowed to sell it. But sugar is a good example. Should be more expensive. There is sugar in. This is like a non-alcoholic Norwegian drink. We drink it around Christmas time. It's called gløgg. And I had a look at what it contains, and of course it's sweet, so it's sugar. But how much do I use? It's like this, and then hot water in it. But that could be expensive. It's okay. We are not supposed to drink that all the time. Yeah. So we could easily make people eat healthier food. Should be very easy to do, and that would strengthen people. You are what you eat, and it would also increase the fertility rate, because what we know is that if you lower the testosterone, that affects the sperm production, and also behavior. It affects behavior. Low testosterone behavior, that's typically where you just sit at home playing computer games, and you don't really try to engage with women. And we're seeing a lot of that. And these toxins that some guy here thought that's European man's coping mechanism. Those lower testosterone, I hope you know that, quite significantly. They lower testosterone in your body. And by the way, when people take testosterone replacement therapy, that's the chemical makeout of that is not actually, it's not testosterone as organic testosterone. If you look at the molecules, it's not exactly the same. It does almost the same in the body, but not exactly the same. And it is also lowering men's fertility when they take that. So eat healthy food, try to get enough sleep. Now, I struggle with getting enough sleep, but I'm doing what I can. It's a challenge, get enough healthy food, work out, get enough, spend time outside under the sun. Oh, We have a troll here. Real Steve, Larry. Either Steve or Larry. You can't make anyone do anything, Bjorn. This is why you fail. Well, I don't think I failed. I think you're the one failing. Let's see. We'll get rid of you. Where are you? Where are you? You're maybe one of the lucky ones here, because I can't find you. Oh, I did find you. So you're not so lucky anyway. You're gone. So, yeah, we can actually make people live a healthier life. If you ask people who are like typically, a single mother with low income, you think that she has a healthy diet? Well, she might try, but it's going to be a little bit difficult because healthy food is expensive. It shouldn't be. That should be the cheap food. While chocolate, for instance, could be expensive because you're not supposed to eat chocolate every day. You could eat chocolate you could have like a little bit of chocolate, not a whole plate of chocolate. You can have that on Saturday evening, maybe. The rest of the week, you're supposed to eat meat, fish, eggs, some vegetables. That should be the staple of your diet. And you should add some carbs if you need it. Most people need very little carb. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Thank you, KP Hidden. Yeah, I got rid of him. Yeah. Yeah, we talked about microplastics already. Yeah, so basically we should fix the diet. Now in the USA, you are lucky. You have JFK Jr. and a lot of people are making fun of him. But if you look at the things that he's trying to do, it's actually very, very sensible. What I've seen, it's very sensible. And you can laugh at that all day long. But people who are laughing at what he's trying to do, they should be ashamed of themselves, because this is not rocket science, it really is not. You kick people off from disagreeing with you? No, I won't kick you off. It's when people say that's why you fail. That's a sort of disagreeing is fine. Disrespecting is not fine. And I will kick people off if they disrespect me or you. And I hope that you appreciate that. Interesting question here. We're talking about diet. People always want to talk about diet. That's fine. If I have a typical Norwegian diet, what do you typically cook in terms of food? Well, I don't have a typical Norwegian diet. A typical Norwegian diet, that's based on grain and milk. I can't really tolerate milk, so I stay away from that. My diet is I have 4 eggs and some potatoes usually, and now a little bit of onion as well in the morning. Then I typically have some chicken and rice or potatoes, and I eat again either steak or chicken. I eat a lot of chicken now actually, but I try to alternate between that and red meat yeah, so I eat the same again for dinner. Yeah, I can't get raw milk because it's not legal to sell it here. Raw milk is easier to digest for humans, but it comes with some risk if you don't know where it comes from. I wouldn't buy raw milk if I didn't know the farmer or the rancher, the farm. I mostly eat steak. Yeah, I will introduce some fish, but it's not salmon. That's like eating poison here in Norway. First name, last name. Funny thing is, I can't handle fiber or oats that well either. After hearing your other live, it kind of made sense to me. Glad I am not alone. Yeah, well, fiber is not necessary. It's not a nutrient. You hear these people saying that you need fiber. You don't, because so what fiber does in your body is that it doesn't really do anything except pushing what you're supposed to digest through the system faster. I don't want to get into details here, but it causes bloating, fiber, and if you have a lot of fiber in your diet, you will not your less vitamins and less nutrients go into your bloodstream. I think this is disgusting to talk about, actually, because it just, your body wants to get rid of it. So many people who had a problem with their digestion find that they have a much more regular, they go to the bathroom much more regular and with less stress when they don't eat fiber. So yeah, I usually say that, I'm not a doctor, but when it comes to fiber, I'm not. It's so, this is so obvious. So eat food that your body is supposed to digest, and you won't need fiber. There is some fiber in vegetables, but I don't think that you should eat too much of vegetables. Oh yeah, Thomas McCallan. Yeah. Oh yeah, cholesterol. Yeah. Now, yes, it is said that fiber sucks up the bad cholesterol and also makes food go slower out of the stomach, so it lasts longer. Well, you need cholesterol to build testosterone, right? So, yeah, testosterone is sort of important for men and women. And if you don't get, now if you don't get any animal fats, you will probably struggle a little bit building testosterone. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but anyway, that was quite a demanding live stream to do, actually, because I had to have a lot of things in my head at the same time. Yeah. Lots of info. Yeah, and as always, take this as if anything, take it as a starting point for your own thought process, your own gathering of information, your own reading. Yeah. My opinion on sushi. I'm a little bit skeptical because it's not treated. So, yeah. I have eaten sushi many years ago, but then I saw a video about some parasites in untreated fish. And after that video, I could not eat sushi anymore. So, yeah, the diet thing, it's like they can try to sell this idea of we should all be vegans. And, I understand, and I wish, I wish it was true, because I absolutely understand the ethical part when it comes to animals. Of course I do. But it's just not like that. We're not built like that. Sadly. So I'm fully aware that people, not people, animals have to die for me to eat. So I don't like that. Of course I don't. You need to stop watching Sky News. What is that? Sky News? I don't know what it is. Is it like a? Oh, is a TV channel? Is it? I don't watch Sky News. Australian news? Okay. I don't watch Australian news, honestly. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm sure if the carnivore diet gurus, they sort of look good. Compare them to the vegan people, and it's obvious, isn't it? It's quite obvious. Um, um, Again, if you want to be a vegan because of the animals, I fully understand and sympathize with that. And but don't come here and say that it's the healthiest diet, or that it's even a healthy diet. It just isn't. So, and when it comes to the ethical part, I would say that, first of all, vegans don't get their food without animals having to die, because they kill the fawns. Isn't that what they call the baby roe deers when they harvest the fields? And you know when to grow grains, you have to kill animals, basically. They do. So there is that. But I think that the most ethical way of eating, that would be ethical hunting, not the sort of hunting that the local boys do up in the woods here, but ethical hunting would be the most, yeah, best for the animals too. We have to eat something. And then you could say, well, we are billions upon billions on this planet. We can't all be out hunting. That's probably true. And I also think that we, even though there are not enough people, we're not having enough children in Europe and so on. There are many places on the planet where they have there are just too many people. So let's see. Crickets? No, not eating crickets. We have talked about this before, and I said, unless I'm out in the wild with no ability to reach civilization or contact anyone, and I've been starving for 2 weeks, and I'm desperate. Unless I'm in that situation, I would never eat a cricket. You know, but I think you will eat almost anything if the alternative is starving to death. You will eat your belt and your shoes even. So yeah, but let's hope we never end up in a situation like that. Cave Clown says, for survival, I'd eat bugs, but if you die before me, you're gonna be barbecue. Yeah, well, I again, I hope I never have to make that choice. But of course, they do say that humans taste a little bit like pork. So, something to think about there. Yeah, okay. So in case of SHTF scenario, it's good to know which of your neighbors are the fattest. Yeah. No, I'm just joking, of course. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think we touched upon many interesting topics today. Hope you appreciate. Do check out my video on my main channel. You can also go to my Patreon, link in the video description. You can go to my website. You will find my videos there, and you should be able to see the website address on the screen. Okay. Thanks a lot. Okay. Have a nice evening, morning, whatever it is, and we will talk soon.